If you play Scrabble or Words with Friends, I've got a new word for you. I just hope they accept it. Auxin. Well, you may say, well, sure, a beast of burden. Everybody knows that. No, this auxin is AUXIN. It's a plant hormone. What are hormones? Why, as a gardener, should you care about auxins? We have some good reasons why. Debbie Flower is here, America's favorite retired college horticultural professor. And I bet there is 1 or 2 lectures in your college playbook about auxins.
Yeah, we talk about auxins. Yeah.
Okay.
It comes up.
And what do you tell them?
Well, auxins are a hormone. A hormone is a protein that is involved in controlling growth. Thus, it's a plant growth regulator. In the industry, it's called a PGR. There are 5 different hormones that are important to plant growth. Auxins are in charge of cell elongation, making cells bigger. And so that's controls the shape of the plant, how wide it gets, how tall it gets. It controls the length of the roots. Auxins are also involved in whether fruit stays on a plant or is dropped from a plant. And they're involved in tropisms. Tropisms are reactions to something. Phototropism is a reaction to light. If you grow plants on a windowsill, the plants will grow toward the light. And that auxin is involved because it migrates away from light to the shady side of the stem and causes the cells on that shady side of the stem to get longer. And when they get longer, the plant has no choice but to bend toward the light. So there are thigmotropisms, and that's by touch. That's when a vine will either twine up a stick or it has a tendril that will wind around the stick. And those, the ability to do that winding involves, again, auxin migrating to the side to make one side longer than the other. And so that vine can go around the stick, or the tendril can wrap around a support. And then geotropisms that has to do with the top of the plant growing up and the roots growing down. So auxin is very much involved in the tropisms. We can buy auxin in a container. We can buy it as a rooting hormone. If you're making cuttings, you can buy a rooting hormone. And if you get really involved in it, you can buy it the rooting hormone in different concentrations. Different concentrations are needed for different kinds of plants. And hormones are interesting to me, especially because at one concentration, they'll do what you think they're going to do. So at one concentration, auxin will cause cells to elongate. At a stronger concentration, it'll cause the reverse.
It will dwarf them?
It will, yes. It will prevent them from getting longer. Won't necessarily dwarf them, but it will prevent them from getting longer. At other concentrations, it'll do nothing. Not enough of the auxin, it'll do nothing. So if you get very involved in propagating plants from cuttings, you will end up with a whole collection of hormone concentrations. You can either buy the very concentrated kind, and it always comes a little card, tells you how to dilute it to make it for different kinds of plants.
And they come with different numbers.
They come with different numbers, and those have to do with the concentration of the auxin.
All right. So for whatever cutting you're going to use the correct auxin.
Yes, because if you don't use enough, it does nothing. And if you use too much, it will prevent rooting.
One of my favorite books on the subject is Plant Propagation from the American Horticultural Society. You can find out more about matching up auxins with plant cuttings from that book.
You can buy hormone auxin in a high concentration, and then you can dilute it down to what you need it to be.
Read and follow all label directions, as we're fond of saying here. There's another hormone called gibberellins, and gibberellins are used at wholesale growers to keep plants all the same size, which makes it great for shipping and great for display tables at retail nurseries. Have you ever walked into a nursery and you see in the springtime a sea of marigolds, or in the fall a sea of cyclamen, or a sea of calendulas, and they're all the same size? Mm-hmm. How do they do that?
Mm-hmm. They do it by applying hormone externally. Yeah, they can dwarf plants that way. There was one, I can't remember the name of it. It had green and pink striped leaves, and it was sold as an indoor plant. And I put it in a terrarium, thinking this is going to be beautiful. But I didn't realize it had been treated with gibberellins, and it took off. It was this lovely matted plant when I bought it, and it took off and it became this tall, gangly thing coming out the top of the terrarium. It was very disappointing.
This is a problem with applications in the wholesale industry of the gibberellins, is the fact that if they put on too much, that plant may stay too dwarfed, or if they don't apply enough, it's going to take off.
Right. Exactly. Yep. We use these hormones commercially, and sometimes we use them at home. We talked about using auxin for rooting cuttings of plants. Mm-hmm. If you do tissue culture, you're pretty up there in your technique.
Yeah.
It's used there. It's used in orchards to thin fruit. If you've done any fruit production or listened to any of Fred's podcasts about fruit production, you know you need to thin the fruit, mm-hmm. and there's certain times to do it, and certain amounts of fruit that you want to leave left on the branch. And so you're either causing blossoms to drop off or actually young fruit to drop off. And auxin is used for that. It can also be used to retain the fruit so that there is a one-time harvest. That's done a lot in tomatoes, so that commercially when they harvest tomatoes, unless they're greenhouse grown, they cut the plant off and separate the plant from the tomatoes, and the crop is done, and they reuse the field for something else. But you want all the fruit harvested at the same time, so they may use auxins to make that happen.
One question we get in this area a lot, people are complaining about their table grapes. Why are my Thompson seedless grapes so small? How can I make my grapes bigger? Well, for one thing, you can thin out the bunches so there's about 6 inches of space between each hanging bunch. Don't let them touch each other. Then you can cut off the tails of that bunch. That'll help. Then you can actually lightly score the trunk to stress it to produce bigger grapes. And then the final way is basically to add an auxin.
Right. Well, you add a gibberellin.
Gibberellin, yes.
Right. You add the hormone gibberellin, and that is what's done commercially. So when you buy those giant grapes, that they have been hit with gibberellins in the field.
Yeah, that's scary. All right, gibberellin, for all of those wondering how my brain works, gibberellin is a hormone. Auxins are a different hormone.
Right. There are 5 hormones that are important in plant growth. Auxins for cell elongation, gibberellin breaks dormancy. It's sometimes used in propagation there and causes fruit expansion. Cytokinins promote cell division and suppress aging. So if you use a powder to mix with water for your cut flowers, you may be using a cytokinin that extends the life of those flowers.
Is that available for us?
There are floral life.
No, I meant for us.
Yes.
No, I meant for us. Drink.
Oh, for us to drink, us humans. No.
Okay. All right.
Then ethylene, which is given off by ripening fruit, but it promotes bud break, but it's also used to prevent sprouting. So when you buy non-organic potatoes, they've been treated with ethylene to prevent sprouting, but bulbs that you buy a bulb from a mail order house and it comes to your house and it's not growing yet, they've been treated most likely with ethylene to prevent them from sprouts. So again, hormones, they can cause sprouting, which is why we don't store our scion wood with our apples in the refrigerator while we're waiting for the season to do grafting. Or they can, at a different concentration, they can prevent that process. So we see both sides of that with the ethylene.
Do bananas produce ethylene gas?
Yes, when they're ripening. And I had a student whose wife worked for Rayleigh's, and he said all the bananas came in green, and then they're gassed. And that's very common. They ship better when they're green. They're not as soft. And so they're gassed with ethylene, and then ripening occurs. So fruit gives off ethylene when it ripens, but unripe fruit can be treated with ethylene to ripen it.
So for the backyard gardener who's hankering for that peach or that plum or that apricot that isn't quite ripe yet, and you're afraid the rats are going to get to it before you do, like if it's a week out from being perfect, I guess you could bring that inside the house, stick it in a bag with an apple or a banana.
Right. And that's a technique if you've ever cut off the top of a pineapple and grown it as a house plant. Obviously, we're not in Hawaii where it's grown commercially. I've done that, and in order to get a fruit, you often need ethylene.
Okay. So, and that's where the apple or the banana comes in.
Right. Right.
Okay. And then abscisic acid. What's that?
Well, to abscise is to cut. It initiates, it's involved in dormancy of seeds, stopping growth, producing rest in plants. It can also be used to keep plants small in commercial industry.
Going back to ethylene, it is used in one available product that if you have liquid amber trees
and olives,
and you don't want the fruit, and in the case of the liquid amber tree, it's those spiky balls that it produces.
Right.
You could somehow spray your entire tree when you see liquid amber flowers. Do let me know when you see a liquid amber flower. They're hard to spot.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah. And you can have it done commercially. There are tree companies that will come and spray your trees to prevent them from producing the flower. So the ethylene causes things to ripen too fast or to grow too fast, so that they don't have a chance to set fruit.
All right. So, and that's available. I believe it's Monterey Chemicals that sells that product.
Yeah.
Florel. Yes. Mm-hmm. Right. That, if you want to try to control a fruiting plant.
One thing that we do use, or potentially, a form of auxin called 2,4-D is a broadleaf weed killer. And that,
I don't think of that as an auxin, but okay.
Right. It is. It causes the plant to grow too fast. So hormones are all about concentration. At one concentration, they do one thing. At the other concentration, they do the opposite. And at not enough, they don't do anything.
Wow. All right. And of course, plants are developing resistances to 2,4-D.
Yes.
But, what else is new? Mother Nature bats last. I would say if you're interested in getting into the plant propagation hobby, that's a fun hobby, too, to start collecting cuttings from your friends of plants that you may want. Auxins may play a part in that.
Right. Starting your cuttings for sure.
And if you want that ripe plum before the rats get to it, stick it in a bag with an apple or banana.
Yeah. Trap that ethylene.
Yes, trap that ethylene. All right. And that's the lowdown on plant hormones. Thank you, Debbie.
You're welcome, Fred.